Morning, everyone, both here in the room and online. We're going to get started in a couple of minutes. I'll give everybody a chance to log in and take their seat. All right, good morning again. We're going to get started here in a minute, but first we have a couple of housekeeping notes. We need everybody in the room to switch off your cell phones, and if you've joined us online, please keep your camera off and your microphone muted. We are recording this session, and it will be available on YouTube by tomorrow. And all of the presentations are available on our website, and that is the wrong web link, but somebody will post the right link into the chat. So we welcome this morning to the SAME Rhein-Main Post meeting. Here we have our mission, vision, and purpose. And I'd like to let Scott Churigan, the Rhein-Main Post president, say a couple of words. Scott, you want to come off mute?
Yeah, sure, I'm here. I was ready for the next slide. Yeah, so greetings everyone from Munich. I'm Scott Churigan, the current president of the past year. And yeah, I just want to say greetings to you all. And I don't know if my slides are delayed, but could you go to the next slide, please? Yep. But yeah, sorry that I can't be with you in Wiesbaden today. But thanks to the hybrid nature of the meetings, I'm still able to join you while on work travels. But yeah, so 2023 is coming up quick as we meet to our deadlines. But as we know, this is our annual cycle for our board officers. So in January will be our election cycle and installation of officers. And I'd like to inform you about our available post positions for the upcoming year. So if you look at the bottom, there's a full listing of them. So I ask that you look at them and see if there are any areas that you might be interested in that you think you could support, and yeah, contact us. You can contact us through board members you already know, or at the bottom of our homepage is a contact us link to our post email address. Just so a little more insight on this is that many of our current board members are planning to continue serving this upcoming year. So we're not asking for any huge commitments from anyone. Typically our board, we meet once a month for an hour over lunchtime virtually. And then of course there are little things that we each work on throughout the month related to our duties. And since many of us are planning to stay on and keep serving the board, you know, it's not coming in, none of you will have to come in and take a huge responsibility of a new position if you don't want to, if you're just interested in supporting. But really having depth at each position will be helpful. Many of us are often on the road for work, so having a bit of people at each position to support will be very helpful. So please consider these positions and contact us to get involved. The way ahead is we'll collect names over the next weeks, and then we'll propose to our membership distro email board for the next year for voting or approval. So thank you, and on to the next.
Okay, next I'd like to invite Tim Conley, our programs chair, to talk about the rest of this year and what we have planned for next year.
Okay, yeah, we've come up with a plan for FY23 before we get there, or sorry, calendar year 23 before we get there. We have one more event in this year, and that's the Henkel social event. It'll be on the 15th of December, and I think we're going to start at 2 o'clock. And possibly head out to a Christmas market after the Henkel social event. And then we've come up with a pretty good plan for calendar 23. The ask here is that if you're interested in any of these topics and want to participate, please reach out and we'll coordinate your participation in these events. And that goes both for people on the government side and on industry. If your company, for example, specializes in any of these topics, we would love to have you participate and have a great program for calendar year 23.
That's an awesome program, Tim. Thanks.
Thanks, Sharice. Yes.
Are spouses welcome to the social, the Henkel?
Or who?
The question was whether spouses can come, and the answer is yes.
The more the merrier.
All right. Is Britta online? I know she had a last minute site visit, but if she's online, she can. All right. So Britta, why don't you tell us what's going on with the scholarship education in STEM?
Sure. Hi, this is Britta Ayers. I'm sorry I couldn't be there today. I'm out on a site visit in Kaiserslautern. And just had a quick update. I wanted to let everybody know that the Rhein-Main Post 2023 scholarship will be posted. The instructions and application form will go live on the website on the 2nd of January. And the deadline for submission will be by the end of the business day on the 3rd of April. So have approximately 4 months for students to review the instructions and complete the application and get them submitted to us. Whoever our team of our panel of board members who will be reviewing the scholarships will make a selection, and then we'll do the awards in May. We can either do it during the golf tournament if it happens in May, or an alternative would be during the graduation at the high school. And the only other thing that I wanted to bring to people's attention is that in January on the 7th, the kickoff is for the 2023 First Robotics Competition season. Wiesbaden High School, as I mentioned a couple months ago, has 2 teams this year that they've entered. They're rookies this year and very, very excited about this opportunity. And I listed the website for additional information if you'd like to follow the competition and the Wiesbaden High School team's progress. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Britta. Mike Erbach, would you like to?
I can shout from my seat.
Oh,
I don't know,
maybe
can
they
you?
won't hear you. Just come up here. You can stand next to me.
So Mike Erbach will give us a membership update.
Thank you, Sharice. So currently we have 272 members and 35 sustaining members. For the year, we've been hovering between 260 to 275. As you know, our post is a very transient post. We get a lot of new members, a lot of members PCS back to the state. So as you can see, we have 6 new members: Nathan Fox, Colonel Pat Dagan, Michael Hecker, Thomas Heck, Christopher Meisel, and Lieutenant Colonel Todd Alex Johnson. Any questions with membership, or if you want to be a member, you can go to the SANY website, and there's a membership link to fill out an online application. Next slide, please. And I just want to say, I want to thank all of our sustaining members for their participation, because without their participation, a lot of these events, our scholarship program wouldn't be, what it is today. Thanks, Trace.
So Brian Weibrecht leads our young professionals, and I don't think he was able to join today, but they are planning a trip to the Wiesbaden Christmas market on December 15th. So all y'all that go to the Henkel Sektkillerei tour could probably hook up with them at the Christmas market later that evening. So if you want more information about doing that, just reach out to Brian Weibrecht, and his contact information is down there. If you're interested in joining the young professional community, also reach out to him. He's got lots of information on training, networking, ways to get additional PDHs, and how to help our K through 12 STEM outreach. Next, as you saw for 2023, we always have a golf outing with the Rhein-Main. It's always a lot of fun. This year, the theme was the Wild Wild West. We don't know what the theme will be in 2024, or 2023, but I'm looking forward to it. So we're tentatively looking to have that in May. So be on the lookout for more information. Okay. Those are our post announcements, and we can get started. So I'd like to introduce our presenters. To my right here is Nathan Fox. He's the Chief of Engineering Branch at the USACE Europe District. He's been with the district for 3.5 years, serving as a lead structural engineer, technical lead, and design section chief. Prior to coming to Europe, Nathan was a structural engineer for the USACE Middle East District. He's from Winchester, Virginia, but he really is enjoying life in Wiesbaden with his wife and 2 boys, ages 6 and 4. Did you know that Nathan got his private pilot's license while he was in high school, flying Cessna 152s? Yep. And sitting on my right at the end is Cheryl Fromey. She's the Deputy Chief of Engineering and Construction Division at the Europe District. She supports a multidisciplinary professional workforce, providing engineering and construction services in support of the district's mission across a broad geographical AOR. Prior to coming to Europe this year, she was at the Norfolk District. She has a Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering from Old Dominion University. Now, she didn't give me a fun fact, but she did share with me that she has a secret desire to ride a horse out onto the golf course. All right, sitting in the middle here is Will Addock. He's a resident engineer with the Europe District here at USAG Wiesbaden. He's a registered professional engineer from North Carolina, graduated from North Carolina State, and has 13 years experience. Working with special operations at Fort Bragg, he focused on design build contracts with the Wilmington and Savannah districts. He spent the last 7 years in Germany as a project engineer in construction support and as an administrative contracting officer. Now, fun fact about William is he's an avid runner, and he's run 2 marathons this year in Heidelberg and Mannheim. So Patty, sitting on my left, Patty Bolton, is the North Atlantic Division Regional Engineer Technical Lead, governing cost engineering, design management, and value engineering. She's here from New York to share an update on the cost schedule risk analysis process that we shared with everybody back in February this year. And a fun fact about Patty would be,
I like to give odd fun facts that aren't true. However, I do, fun fact is I married my husband twice.
married your husband twice. I also happen to know she makes a mean Christmas Stollen. So let's welcome our presenters, and with that, I will kick it off to Nathan.
Thank you so much, Charisse. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to join the post, first of all, and to contribute. I think I really appreciate it. I'm excited about the discussions I've seen going on here, and some of the partnering and sort of the sharing of knowledge. So I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm glad to be here. So we're going to give a presentation today on the engineering considerations and instructions for field personnel, and that is a mouthful, so we will probably mess it up on this panel at some point, and we'll say ECIFP or maybe ECIFP at some point, but that's the topic for today. Original presentations comes from the North Atlantic Division, so that's what we're coming from. What we see, if we could go back to the presentation agenda. The agenda for today is we're going to talk about the ECIFP, do an overview on that, and then we're going to hand it over for part 2 to Patricia Bolton for the CSRA update, and then we've got a few more topics that we'll jump into and discuss as we get there. All right, so diving in. So the ECIFP overview. All right, so I'm going to talk about the definition of what is this? What is this? So the engineering considerations instructions for field personnel is a short report. Short is kind of highlighted here on the critical portions of contract documents. And what we really want to highlight is it's really an opportunity for the DOR to give a concise, kind of a concise report on the unique and critical aspects of projects, and put it into a format that's very digestible for the field personnel. So taking this opportunity to sort of pull off of the design analysis. The design analysis is a useful document. It documents our design and what we're doing along the phase, all along the way. But it has a lot of things like calculations, and it's a very long document. It goes into great detail. So the idea here is that a lot of these critical, important elements get buried in the design analysis. This ECIFP is an opportunity to pull those forward to really highlight them for our field personnel and give them some of the critical pieces that they should jump on quickly and address fast. So the guidance has around 10 pages for this document. That's flexible, but it certainly depends on the project. We'll highlight what goes into the document here, and you'll kind of see how the range of size of the document will flex. And then I really want to talk about the purpose, and there's some really, I think the bottom 2 points on the purpose there are so critical. And I think what it really comes down to is we really want to establish communication and coordination between design and construction personnel. We get a lot of feedback from our division that comes here and does studies of how projects have gone. And when we see issues come up, a lot of times that issue is tied back to not having that tight connection between the design and construction personnel. And maybe things got missed in translation between those. And this document really gets at addressing that. And then the last bullet there on purpose 2, I think is critical. Is really empowering the construction field personnel to make decisions they need to make, quick on a daily basis and without compromising design intent. So knowing where they have flexibility to make terms and knowing when they need to reach out to the DOR or reach out to the technical experts or designers to get more information. So that's really what we're trying to do. I wanted to give a quick story from when I was like a very young junior engineer starting out. I was really excited. I got this new project. I was designing it. It was for a church. They're putting an addition on. And so I was excited. I'm a structural engineer. I'm out of school. I designed this project. I know every detail, right? I know every rebar in this building. I got it all figured out. I reviewed the shop drawings. Everything looks good. So of course I got my new fresh hard hat out. It's right out of the wrapper, right? Not a scratch on it. My safety boots without a mark on them. I'm walking out to the job site expecting to see this exactly right. And I get out there and there's these deficiencies where they haven't put critical elements of the shear wall system. There's missing pieces there. And I'm like, what has happened? And I'm trying to figure it out. I'm talking to the construction personnel. I'm like, listen, it's here in the documents. I highlighted it. I wrote notes. I bolded it. And they were like, oh yeah, we were never made aware that this was a part of the shear system. We didn't know it was a critical element of the design. So I misconveying the intent. I got so focused on the details that I misconveyed the intent to the field QC people of what really needed to happen, what was really important. So the lesson learned for me was definitely communication with field personnel is critical, and sharing that design intent early makes projects go a lot smoother, and it can avoid a lot of rework along the way. So that's a quick overview, and then I will turn it over to Cheryl to talk a little bit more about content.
So as you can see, I won't go through and read the slide for everyone, but as you can see that there is a template structure, and that is for continuity consistency. We find that within the Corps of Engineers, because we are, especially here in your district, somewhat transient, right? We have people coming in from all over the Corps of Engineers, but we are 30,000+ people strong. So it really helps us to have continuity consistency, so that if we have to have someone surge or deploy to assist, they'll have some familiarity with what they're doing and the documents they're looking at, where they can find information. So that is just us being good USACE, being good Army, being good DoD, right? We like that structure. So there is a structure, but what I really want to talk about more than the real structure part, and it's kind of this slide, possibly a little second, but we can stay here, is it's just kind of expand on a little bit about, even though there is a template, even though it's a guideline, please do not take any of this as even the examples that you may see, examples you may hear about, as there's only a one size fits all. As we know, the Corps of Engineers, one of the reasons I love it so much and have been with them, with the Corps for 29 years, my entire career, is the diversity of our program. I can work on something very simple, but very important, and maybe even more highly visible, depending on what the stakeholder is, and something that's extremely complex and extremely technically challenging. Either way, whether it's an artistic element, an architectural feature of work that maybe is not as, from a structural stability and integrity issue, but that architectural feature may be very vital and important if I came from Norfolk, so I'll say like at Arlington National Cemetery. That architectural feature is just as important, please know, as any structural integrity element of it for what we're delivering and what we're trying to do. And one of the things that I have found over my many years is that whether we are doing a design utilizing our AE partners such as yourselves as the designer of record, or even if we are serving as the designer of record internally with ourselves, that whether it's in-house or external, designer of records have always said, what in the world was construction thinking, right? Well, what were they thinking when they made that deal to modify this or modify that? It kind of takes away from pick something. And so that's what I try to tell folks is think about it. If you're the designer of record and you only were able to get, one opportunity to sit in front of the construction and tell them for your specific area, discipline, topic of conversation, what is it that you want them to know the most? There is the design analysis that's already there. This is not meant to rehash the design analysis. It's really meant to complement the design analysis, to pull out those little pieces and those little things that maybe the too many words that the design analysis has kind of bogged it down or got overlooked. Like maybe there's this amazing architectural feature, but it's the focal point of the whole thing. So you got to make sure you get it right. Or because it's engraving in stone, and the stone's coming from a specialized quarry that's only open a certain time of the year, that you better get it soon and you better get it right, because you might want to give yourself a little grace in case it got something happen or it got broken when you're installing or something else. So, even if it's from a timing perspective, a phasing perspective, anything that is really important, that if people don't understand that in your mind, and when you're putting this design together, that these were the integral pieces and thought processes of how the design needs to progress or how it needs to go. And you can't maybe jump around from site to site. You have to really do it in a specific flow. Those are things that, we want you to pull out. We want you to talk about. Quality obviously is really important. If it's something to the trend, we rely on you guys very much with your ability to have the partnerships and really have a little more probably involvement with the construction industry than say we do. Maybe you know about some trends that are going on in the construction industry, whether it's a method of construction, maybe there's a certain discipline. Like I know at one point we were talking about like masonry, that there was a kind of a shortage of masonry, and so therefore the quality of maybe masonry. So if this particular thing, if we needed to make sure we had the highest quality and that we really needed to look for the skills and specifications of the people that bring it on site, call that out. Or we'd find like, I know we had an issue one time about, and I've had a place before is where we did some looking at value engineering because design called for wood piling, but because of hurricane response, wasn't many wood piles around. And so, we need to look at metal, and that wasn't a problem, except for when you do change to that, it had some issues and things too. So really important to have an understanding of the designer of records intent, what they want to relay. If there's little things that that they think if we, that there's no flexibility, if you want to say, please, you don't, or even just say, before you do something in this area, please contact us. I think designer of records, again, like I said, always would love to be on site more than they are. Doesn't matter if it's an AE firm or our own in-house people, because the designers always would rather be, can I go out there every week? Well, sometimes we can't afford that, and so we're not. So this is the next best thing, right? Is an opportunity for you guys to communicate with them and really be able to bring that out. We can go to the next slide. So again, I'm kind of starting to get into the content a little bit, but it's just, again, more to emphasize that there is no one size fits all. It really comes down to complexity. What is the main intent of the project? Helping to just draw that conclusion, because the field offices do have to make sometimes decisions about some, modifications or maybe what it is that they're trying to accomplish can or can't be done the exact way that it was specified. And so maybe there is the compromise, but they also need to understand their constraints and their boundaries, their left and rights, on that particular issue and concern. Things that you have to have for lead, because if you don't have it, you can't get it. Those ones that are like, the must-haves, if those looks like they may be hard to get, you might want to call them out and say, hey, be careful about this issue. We know contractors don't want to, they're having a hard time meeting blah, blah, blah. They might try to, ask you to, can we do something different? What we've seen is that you can't, because if you don't do it this way, you won't get the end result you're looking for. So those are really some of the things that, I just wanted to relay, is that, look at it uniquely, and definitely due to the complexity or the intent of the project, architectural features may be just as valuable and important to relay, so that we know what that is. Haul routes, it may be that you had this really painful, and I'm saying painful from experience, discussion with the DPW about actually establishing the correct haul route. And there should be no variation to that, because we've already had that discussion and understand that that's the only thing that, and, can work for the DPW. Anything else would be, maybe putting the DPW or the installation at risk for something that they're trying to do. Then, pass that little bit of information along. It's like, we chose this one. It may not seem like the straight shot to the site. And yes, you're right, it's not, but it is in the best interest of, the entire stakeholder group. It's not just, trying to get to the site quickest. It's also about a lot of other things we take into consideration. So the contractor may say, well, why can't I just do, this and go straight here? But this way they'll have that answer to give them on something as simple as a haul route. Or security requirements, letting us know long lead times. If you're starting to see things too, in the industry where there are certain things that are having significantly long lead times, I would just ask you kindly to maybe just kind of point that out and identify, get these submittals early. These are the submittals that, even though you may not be getting it to critical path until, maybe a year in, if you don't start working on, the minute the project's awarded, it could become a problem for you. Or other things like, don't work this one so early because the manufacturing is going to change what's available as far as the FF&E or whatever else it is. And so really you want to wait closer to the end, because then you'll get something approved that no longer exists by the time you go to purchase it. So, you guys have been doing this for a long time. I'm sure this isn't probably new to you guys. It's probably just more new to our process and working with the Corps and what our expectations are. So we definitely learn from you, and we value your thoughts and your opinions and your input. And we ask you to just keep coming with us and helping educate us as well. And I will turn it over to Will.
All right, we couldn't go through roles and responsibilities without somebody from construction being here. So I'll try not to focus too much on the third bullet, but starting with the top, just really focusing here and keying in at the AE design level, DOR. They're the ones that's from the start of your design kickoff, you're collecting the engineering considerations, you're putting that together as part of the package. You're really kind of doing the legwork of condensing that design analysis, condensing all the site discussions, all those communications into the package. And that's sort of the key thing. And we'll have another slide that briefly touches on that as well. And then you're leading the preparation of that. From the Corps of Engineers, the technical lead, that will be your engineering contact. They're like your main source during the design as well for when you're briefing, they're going to be taking your information, taking those same site visits, because construction may not be at all of it. The design technical lead, they really help carry the water to construction to get it to us and get us the right information. And then after the construction project's awarded, that design technical lead, they're going to lead follow-on meetings that help coordination the ECI, basically doing a reminder, hey, page 5, you didn't get to it, you didn't read it yet, hey, we need to really pick this up at this part of the phase of construction, going through that. And then finally, the area engineer or the construction field office, down to the PE or QA, they're going to provide input during the process of preparing it. So while you're getting to your 95% design, we're going to say, hey, these will be interesting things that we need to include into that package, or these are things that we found at this particular garrison that we always seem to have. So we're going to help provide some input into that process as well. We're also going to take the package and then disseminate it accordingly to the field personnel. We have members of construction support that come out periodically. We have our own QA system. Everybody that's there, we're going to help make sure this package gets within the right government personnel so that's utilized to the most effect. And then we also create our own, it's called QAPS, the QAPS. But that's our surveillance plan. That's basically a project supplement. So that's going to take your condensed design analysis that's now turned into the ECIP FP. See, we did it. And then we're going to take that and then we're going to make our own document that helps our QA and our field team really focus in on what are the aspects during the quality assurance phase of construction. And then also we'll be representatives there in all of those ECI meetings with the tech leads and the AE. We can go to the next slide. We have it in a much better illustration here, but the key thing is from this line, the left of the line is prior to solicitation, the right is after award. And really focusing, the only thing I want to emphasize here is that you're preparing that draft. Generally, it's submitted at the 95%, but you want to have that coordination with the field before you finalize it. That really allows for it to be utilized. It'll kind of force both ends of us. If you're preparing it, we're also including additional input, and it really makes sure that it's an effective tool. Because really, at the end of the day, this is a tool in our toolkit that'll help us have a more successful project. And it's also done before award so that if there are any items, if there's anything that needs to be picked up, it can really make our final contract documents sing as far as the meeting up the requirement. On the bottom end for the construction, you can see that the QPS gets prepared right before award as well. So we're trying to incorporate that information into it. And then once it's awarded, that's where we're going to have this transition meeting that's led with the technical leads and the field. Any updates that we need to have to the QAPS, and then any follow-on meetings during construction towards we get to the end, kind of that reminder of, hey, page 5, page 6, what are the minor details are we picking up on? So with that, that covers the overview, the process for that, and I'll turn it back to Nathan.
Yeah.
The one alibi is that I didn't catch it, and my apologies. This one's talking probably more about our normal contract process, so it's set at 95%. We recognize, especially here in Europe District, that there's a lot of projects in which we do that we're turning it over to the host nation at a much lesser degree. So scope of works may actually have it in a little bit, not at 95%, because that is going to be our intent. This isn't going to be just for something that's going to have a full design. The intent for the ECIFP is also for some of our projects and programs that we're doing, even though we might not be fully designing them. And again, it's an opportunity to make sure that we're capturing those things that we think, and in my opinion, it's even more valuable at that point in time, right? That if you guys are not able to finish the design and it's being turned over to host nation to finish. So I just wanted to call that out.
Perfect. And continuing on with process. And so this is kind of follows along with the flow chart we kind of just saw in the previous slide. But I wanted to jump in and talk a little bit about kind of levels of effort along that process. And so number one is collecting the ECIs. And, you know, for the disciplines, there's really no additional effort here, right? So they are very aware of the unique items that should be in the ECIFP. Like I mentioned, all of us have a designer background, probably most all of us. We know that when you're heavily involved in a project, you know what's critical, you know what needs to be highlighted, and that's easy to do, right? You know where to pull those pieces out of the design analysis. And it's kind of things that like I like to see is especially like during design charrettes, like when you have time and you're picking up these things. Just take it side notes, right? This is a good ECIFP topic, and just kind of writing out your notes quickly right there in the design charrette. And as you go along the design process, just keeping a little, separate document maybe, or a OneNote file that you're kind of writing down your stuff that's critical along the way. So, from a designer perspective, I mean, it's something that they could easily incorporate in. I think that you'll find that they really enjoy doing it. I think for me as a designer, I always like having that forum to kind of get information out there of what I see is critical. And I think it helps everyone along the way. Yeah, and then so going to number 2 there, where we're preparing the draft ECIFP. So there will certainly be some, at this point, the disciplines should all have collected their ECIs, and there's going to be some, effort to assemble it, but it should be minimal. It's a minimal. Whoever the lead is for the AE firm is going to take whether it's the PM or whoever you all have taken the lead on putting together some of that general information, leading compilating, what I'm trying to say, and coordination. And so there's some minimal 4 to 8 hour effort there to pull it all together. But overall, it should be something that there's nothing unique in the ECIFP. We're not requesting you to go pull any additional information, or it's all stuff that you're doing as part of the design process. It's just simply the effort of pulling together a document. So really we see minimal effort there. The 3 is it'll go through a review, and that's mostly with the field personnel that you'll be going through that review with. But as Will mentioned, like everyone wants the field to be engaged through the design process. They want to be involved. They want to be in the discussion on what you see as ECIFP topics. So while they will be doing a review at 95%, we don't see that as, if there's anything that's critical and unique that hasn't come up before that's the bigger problem, right? But hopefully it's just them looking at it and saying maybe we'd like a little bit more clarification in this area, or what exactly are you expecting in this? So again, we see it as a review, mostly to help the field team get engaged, get their quality documents started, and not as shouldn't be any showstopper. We need to go back and look this stuff type of thing. And then of course with number 4, we'll be preparing the final, which is just picking up the comments that come. And then everything after that is kind of goes over to the USACE team side of the house. So I won't dive into that so deep right here. And we can go ahead to the next one. And so, yeah, so the templates. So we have a Europe district, NAU, we have ECIFP templates. We will start, so we're going to start incorporating ECIFP into our AE task orders. So you will see it there. And when we do that, we'll have a paragraph in there describing the ECIFP and kind of highlights of this discussion here today. And then we're also going to attach this template, which the template is really based on the slides we showed you today, what's expected to be in there. We also have 3 example files that they'll be posted along with the
Right. These slides, these references, and the 3 examples that Nathan just mentioned are posted on the Rhein-Main Post website. And are you going to post the links to those in the chat?
Sure.
Tim? Okay, so that people can find those.
So, and then the ER reference there is really where all this information comes from, and they have some good appendix on that give you examples and samples and stuff there. So that's a really great reference to dig into. All right, and then so yeah, just a final word on ECIFP. So I think this is an opportunity, right? What we don't want this is to be a check the box thing, and then that's some people, when they hear about a new process or something that comes down from headquarters, USACE or division, and they say, oh, another check the box thing. And I really hope it doesn't. I really hope that you guys will sort of institutionalize this with your team, make them aware that how important this is to USACE, to our construction field personnel, how critical this is for us to make improvements in delivering for our customers. We really need support in finding the critical pieces, and we really need your information and knowledge to do better construction here in Europe. And so I hope you guys take it and really add value to our projects from it. And we wanted to we'll open up for questions, but I was also interested if anyone has any specific success stories, any unique projects or any unique ECIFPs that you guys have seen that have captured some important piece of a project or success story, anything like that. So I'll open it up for a story like that, or any questions at this point.
All right, Tim will moderate the questions. So if you have questions, just put them into the chat. And if you've got questions here in the room, we will ask that you come over here toward the microphone so everybody can hear you. I'll start with a question. I work for Black & Veatch, and we do the ECIFPs on a number of our projects, particularly the really large ones. And I agree, they are not a huge effort because it's just summarizing the design analysis. We've seen them done in 2 ways, either as an appendix to the DA or as a standalone document. What is your preference?
Our preference would be a standalone document.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
And purely just for the point of separating it. Like, we want this to be a clean, short document that's easily there. And so if you put it as appendix, I feel like it gets buried more. So.
Yeah. Typically, we're finding they are 10 pages or so, up to 40 where we're doing a really highly complex classified facility or
Sure.
something, but yeah. So we have a question in the room.
This is Jim Drawheim with WSP. So in the past, I've done some large complex projects like hospitals and laboratories where you've got repeated elements like patient rooms or laboratories where you want them exactly replicated throughout the building. And we would incorporate mock-ups or put a room of each type ahead of schedule because we knew it was important for the contractors to get every detail right on one room before they made those mistakes times 40, 50, 60 times in the other rest. Is that the kind of thing you would anticipate, things like mock-ups, whether it was exterior walls or room types being put into this document? Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
absolutely. Like what you just said would be a perfect example of something to write into the ECIFP. Like just this stating how critical it is to have this mock-up room complete and having all parties, whoever the critical parties are when signing off on that,
Yeah.
listing that there, that would be huge. So that the field guys will know exactly who needs to check, who needs to sign off.
Great question.
Another example I can provide similar to mock-ups to just kind of reinforce that is that we had a situation, again, I'm new to Europe, so I'm probably pulling on my past experience a little bit, but at Arlington National Cemetery where they wanted to use a certain application to try and repair or, kind of clean up some of the existing features of work at one of the walkways, but it hadn't been tried on that type of stone before. So we required them to do a mock-up separately, to prove that it wouldn't damage it because that was one of those irreplaceable things. If you damage that, there is no second chance. There is no place you can go to replace that. So any type of mock-up situation, helping people understand the importance and the reasonings behind the mock-up, I think is helpful. It just gives also the construction folks that much more, I think, ability to, when the contractor, if you have a contractor that is trying to say, oh, I don't need to do this or that for a time, maybe for a time perspective, maybe they're trying to, accelerate or something or make up some time, then we have a little more information that we can help them understand why and the reason it's not going to happen. So then you can help support that need.
All right, Tim, we've got one online.
Yeah, we do. This is from Todd Bishop, and his question is related to the slide overview 2 content page. And it goes back to the comment, I think it was the second to last bullet, does not go to the contractor. And he says and asks, seems like a nice gesture for the DOR to share intimate details or concerns. However, is there any concern of sharing with the contractor if there is a strong partnership that exists?
So we have to be careful with that, right? So this is not a document that would go to the contractor, and the reason for that is that we're highlighting things that are in the plans and specs. Those are the contract documents. So ECIFP is not a contract document, so it's not going to be enforceable. So we don't want to put out things like that. Of course, there's going to be a partnership with the contractor, and we're going to discuss things from the ECIFP with them and discuss them along the construction process. But it's not a document that we're going to hand over. Yeah.
It needs to stay that way so that we can ensure that you guys vocalize and document and verbalize, some things to a point that we get the message, right? That the message isn't overlooked to us. And sometimes you might have to be direct or very, succinct in something that you're stating. And we want to give you that ability.
And I also have a quick yes/no question from Brian Osborne with CDM. Is there a requirement to translate the ECIFP into host nation language?
I think no.
Since we are not sharing it with the contractors, now I'm not going to say one size fits all because, it might be if our stakeholders looking at something, but I think that would be a case by case basis. But I don't, and if we really did need it, we'd have to make that determination and put it in your scope.
Right.
But I would say most, probably not.
Probably not.
Okay. Margaret and then Chandler.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, hi, this
Oh,
is
yeah.
Margaret Burcham from WSP. I got 2 questions. One, I don't know if you can tell Sharice, but can you tell how us here in the DFAC, how many people are online and
Yes.
vice versa?
Yes, there's 45 people online.
Oh, cool. It's good to just understand the audience.
Sure.
And so this makes complete sense. It's kind of common sense, I think. And it's all about, obviously, you're increasing communication. to get a more successful project. And I heard, William, you talked about the, I guess, the resident office members and the field people inputting into this, I guess, at the 95% point, which makes sense. And obviously making sure you understand what's trying to be communicated. But I'm also thinking, like, as the designers of record, they're very, very, very close to this. Like you described your first job out of school. You're very, very close to every little detail. And I would assume it's human nature that they're gonna, some of that, you take it for granted because you're so close to it, right? So you may not think to tell it to somebody else. So it seems like the district people who are reviewing those, the technical reviewers, would be another source of input. And that along the way, it would make sense that they're kind of reminding the AEs, hey, don't forget, let's point this out. And so if they both were keeping lists along the way, it would make a better product. Is that, I don't know if that's part of your process.
No, that's a great point.
That's a
I
great
think we hadn't thought through that part of the process. I think it's a good point, having our district reviewers think about it as well. And
Because it's really about everybody contributing. And
Yeah.
if you
Right.
see something, say something, right? Yeah.
So I would even go a step further and even say with our stakeholders, as we're in a design charrette, if something's brought even from a stakeholder perspective, that's very important to them, that then you're translating that to your design because that was important to the stakeholder. Well, then we need to make sure that we're capturing that as well.
Such as haul routes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be very important.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Chandler?
Yeah, hi, this is Chandler Ogden with Jacobs. I have a question, maybe tag teaming off the comment that was made earlier about the cases where we don't take a design all the way to completion and we're going to do a handoff. So I see a bunch of different scenarios there. Some cases we're handing it off in Germany, maybe for completion through the LBBs. So is the audience, I guess, maybe if you could expand upon that on what the purpose of the handoff would be. Is that something to go to the core, again, as an internal document that guides that further design? And then also maybe as a second part, things like PPI, where we're handing off to another government that's responsible for construction. Do you have a view of how that works?
So,
I'd like to add one more
Okay.
example to that. When a lot of the projects we design go under the design build MATOX.
Yeah.
So they only get to 35%. So
yeah, so that's why I wanted to point out, because it's not just 95%. There's a lot of different.
yeah,
So those are some things that we'll definitely need to have that discussion. I would challenge every you guys, if we don't put it in your scope of work, bring it up at your scope of work, especially for these unique
Okay.
situations. I'm a big believer in the more we can talk during scope development and scope meetings, the better we can get our, get the proposals and the RIGs. That makes negotiation so much easier. The more we're in alignment with the line of effort, and it's good things, to bring up. I would say at this point in the time where I'm sitting, it's for government USACE, USA government. And there's multiple reasons that I would say that for it, but it's really for us and for our folks. So for example, I'll go on a limb here and say PPI. When we're doing that, we're turning it over for PPI. The Polish have their own way of doing things. They may or not, but it will actually help. We still have a US component that's going to be part of that team and part of the reviews. And part of it is we're trying to figure out what is the most important thing for our US teams to be looking at. I have not been in Germany very much. I can probably turn that one to Will, but I imagine that if you can tell him a few things that, hey, look, the Germans probably got it down on blah, 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 blah. Some areas where we see like some potential, maybe friction points could be here, here, and here. That's the kind of stuff that he's looking, even though he may not have contractual authority, he needs to know where does he need to focus his efforts and his folks. Would that be a fair assessment?
And I would say too, the key focal point would be you're preparing it more or less for the government's use in their quality assurance portion. So when you look at some of the key contents, such as like your inspections and testing, just off the hand, like elevator as well as like generator, those testing requirements don't always line up with host nation and US requirement. So like spelling that out in your plan will help us when it comes to the execution. And then also one of the sections is just the designer site visits. So if you're mechanical designer saying, hey, it's critical that I would be here, 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 once that gets turned over and passed on, then we can help bridge the gap to ensure that a technical source, either from our engineering or from the host nation is represented for those portions of inspections. So it really, it suits both ends of it, and getting it at 35 is only a piece of the way, but you still have a good idea of, hey, these are the critical friction points.
We have another online question from Todd Bishop, and it goes exactly to this point. Should the stakeholder also be invited to review between the DOR and the CA, or perhaps after the meeting, they get a chance to weigh in? Any thoughts on that?
Not sure I digested.
So
that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand the
I
question.
think he
fully,
means,
but I-
so we're talking about sharing the ECIFP just with the field personnel so that they can communicate it. Is there some benefit to sharing it with the end user, I think is what they're talking about, the stakeholder, sharing those details with them?
Yeah, I think that there might be case by case basis depending on what it, what it is. Some projects, trying to determine who's the actual end user versus there's a lot more stakeholders in the room for that. But I definitely think that stakeholders need to have input into those things. They should be having input into the design anyways, right?
Yeah, right.
So during the design shreds and the other review sessions.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly how to be, but I think that the intent and the idea would be that it's a compilation of its US government thoughts that are going into those things that are, especially if you're getting information from a stakeholder that influences your design, whether maybe you were challenged in a very, very healthy way to be able to execute and design something that meets their requirements, but it better be done exactly right, or you're a little nervous maybe of the results. Those are the kind of things that we need to know about. Yes.
Okay, do we have any more questions?
I'll go out
Tim.
on a limb for the entire AE industry.
Oh, no, I need.
Oh.
It was mentioned a couple of times, I won't mention any names. Said that this shouldn't take any effort. This shouldn't take any effort. This is a very small
Minimal
effort. But I think that will depend, right, on the complexity of the project. As somebody was saying from the AE side, these documents could be 10 pages, they could be 40 pages. I know, during a negotiation, we always have to come to an agreement on a fair and reasonable level of effort. And from everything I heard, it does sound like there's some effort involved in that, more than no effort, at least. Thoughts on that?
Well, I said minimal effort, not no effort.
I heard no effort a couple times, not you, but anyways.
So, you're right. There's going to be a minimal effort involved, right? But what we're trying to convey here is that's not the intent to create any additional effort. These are all things that your designers are doing. Like there's nothing new or unique, or there's nothing in this document that's not somewhere else. They're not finding information. They're not having talked to more people. It's all there. So is there some effort in compiling that? Yes, but it's minimal effort. It's not significant effort.
Okay.
That's been our experience, Tim.
Okay.
That it is minimal. I will go ahead and add that we also consider that non-design services, because it is dealing with the construction when you're talking about having to negotiate.
Yeah.
And I would say like everything in life, right? It's scalable depending on what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
But we're not asking guys to generate paper for paper's sake, right? So it's got to be meaningful. And I think that, what we're trying to just, again, say is that design analysis are great and they're much needed. And we look at them when we're doing technical reviews. Sometimes we're getting down to like, checking the numbers and make sure they're mapped. But, something this thick for a design, seen some design analysis for that can't, we can't translate that to the field when we're trying to like pull it out. So I think when we talk about that too, is what, again, I'm trying to say is that it's not creating something that you haven't thought about. It should be stuff that is being talked about in conversations. And that if we start early and often, right? Early and often for anything, always has a better success rate.
Yeah.
So early and often in the very beginning of the even planning, scoping of the project, asking folks, what's important to you. I think, we talked about several times, and I firm believer stakeholders are definitely important for that, asking them what's critical for them so that we can capture it, because at the end of the day, you and I both are teaming up as partners to actually meet a requirement for the stakeholders. So like in the end, they're the ones that we need them happy.
All right, well, thank you. And we will continue to get more questions as we go on. Now we would like to turn the program over to Patty Bolton for an update on CSRA.
I thank you very much. You said I'm Patty Bolton, here from the division. Here to talk about a little bit of what's happening in the Army MILCON process, the design, the DCA. So we're the designated construction agent for much of the world. Shared with us is also the Navy and a little piece of Air Force. So for the Army specific, there has been this MILCON process where we've had this DCA assessments for our 35%. The intent is to get a better quality on the project in terms of the cost. This is driven by OSD. OSD put this out and said, yeah, we want the CSRAs on our projects that are over $20 million and an assessment to the quality of it, and hoping the intent is that it's a 35% design. So that's a brief statement about what it is, but this is the 24 process. Whereas we had, if you know, in July, that's when we have to have everything complete and turned in. And quite honestly, it was a 1-week turnaround for us at headquarters, because I was working with headquarters very closely to review. It became very hard, quite honestly, to get things right and find errors or challenges to things. And again, it's going to relate to quality. Much like we were talking here on the ECIFP, was the same thing. And the reviews that we've seen in projects where there's been issues in construction, because at the division that's we've been doing is review of these projects that are important. And it goes down to quality. Again, do what you say what you do, and you're going to hear this at the end of the conversation here. So what we've done is, not we, technically Army, said if you would not slide here, is shift the process to the left. If you could slide. So now what we've done is we've pulled this process and created a new one where it's still July, but the actual due date, if you'll note, is 1 June. Now, given that that's the case, all of our design and our actual code 2 releases, we moved further to the left to give some more design time, if you'll note. Slide. So what I'm highlighting here is like a little bit of a shift from that 1 July, and I'm hoping the slide stays the same right there. Okay, so your milestone, if you'll note right there, is the same milestone that shifted to April now. So we're all of us are shifting this to the left a little bit, but hopefully also the code 2s are released a little bit earlier. We had a real big problem before when we had those code 2s in November. Not our control, but this has forced many of our components to do this. The other thing is it highlights once again the need for some improvement. So there's some continuous effort here on the schedule. So meeting a deadline and having a quality product. So we've shifted the schedule to do that, but also providing that risk-based cost estimate per OSD's requirements to get to them. And they are expecting a 35% design, which we're supposed to be certifying, and also a CSRA on that cost estimate so that they're selecting, when we're providing to them, quite literally on the CSRA is the entire array of contingencies from 0 to 100%. Now, what I mean by contingencies is you get from the CSRA an array of costs or an array of contingencies that relate then to a confidence level. So this isn't a talk about what CSRA is, but it's the confidence level that you have enough funding or sufficient funding to fund that project should you do it 1,000 times in the same place, same time, same contractor, same everything. So it's just relative to risks. And what we have noted though, in evaluating those, and that was 3 people and a couple others, was a real significant need for quality improvement in our process and what we do. And what it came down to is do as you say as you do. The issues highlighted is that there really needs to be QA by USACE. I think, again, we're going back to ECIFP and everything else. And also the need for the QC by the AE. I know myself as a design manager, it was one of those things that I asked for because it was in the contract and they're like, oh, quiet. None of you here. It was a small contractor. But again, we need to really focus on doing the things that we say that we do. and the communication. Communication has always been significant across the board. We suffer from the same issues and challenges, and we're working hard to improve upon that. The CSRA, we really do need to get that complete risk register and the report. And the CSRA itself is an Excel file, and that is important to get it. You've got to use Crystal Ball. Unfortunately, I know at-risk exists, but in order for us to review and to be able to assess that it's run right, we're going to use the same program. And it was really very clear that many did not really understand CSRA or how to apply it well. I encourage everyone to continue to work with your partners, whomever, to improve upon it. I think that you'll also find for yourselves, it's a really good tool for decision making. So I've used it for other analysis and work with other partners. One was even with the with the project for the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. They don't go to OSD, they go straight to the Treasury. And they actually talk. They know Monte Carlo and what it does. That's what the analysis really is, Monte Carlo. And you can use it for many other instances where you have a variety of known risks that you could individually potentially say you have some quantifying low, high, whatever, what they are, what the impacts are, and then do the analysis and have something that tells you your array of confidence levels. It's a good decision tool. What we are focusing on is the 50% confidence level. And that's all I have.
Well, thank you, Patty. You know, if you saw the proposed program for next year, I think we've got another session on CSRA in March, and we would love to invite you back for that. I mean, this is something that I know my company does at Black and Beach on our projects. We use the Monte Carlo. We use that for a lot of analysis, not just.
Agreed. I've done that for
Yeah.
decisions with the partners and stakeholders where they
Exactly.
had to make decisions at higher levels, and we know what we're trying to communicate, but how do we communicate it?
How do
And
we do
it's
it?
all relative to be able
Yeah.
to understand what it is.
So, do we have any short questions about CSRA at this point?
Nothing online, Sharice.
Okay, well, I think we want to
Must be
dive
boring.
deeper into that, and so stay tuned, March.
So I'd like to just say, being married twice, it was the same person. I got married here, went up to Denmark, met my husband. Met my husband, we were military, and we went to, we got married up in Denmark and kept it really quiet. And went home and got married with the family. So.
All right, so no separation in between.
All right, well, now let's move on to part 3.
Yeah, part 3. So it's just some bonus items here.
But
bonus
wait.
round. Yeah, and this is just, we want to be transparent about what we're working on, what's coming. So this is our base contracts forecast. The next slide is our Torrance forecast, and we're just kicking off these base contracts, so we really don't have much more information than what's on these slides, and this will change, right? This is just what we're working and what we're thinking as of this moment. So these will change. This is posted on our website. So if you go to our website, it's under the business with us and under contracting, you can find these lists, and we'll keep these updated throughout the year as we're moving along. So just a heads up on those.
You want to field just a couple of questions on that?
We can. We'll do our best.
I'll ask one. I mean, this is great that, you know, we love getting the forecast, and thank you for getting it on your website. It is included in the slide deck that's going to be posted on the website here. I did notice, however, that these are very heavy in the planning. Do you expect more design? Horns coming soon.
Absolutely. Just the planning, we kind of get more of a long lead. We know it's coming further out, so that's why you get the stacked list of planning. But of course, we expect the designs to come into. We just won't get as much warning, but we'll give you warning as we go.
Would anyone else like to ask a question?
How often do you update the list on the website?
We try, we shoot for quarterly. It's been in the past, so we shoot for is quarterly. But you know, I want to keep you guys updated. So I think I'm going to try to challenge our team to perhaps do more, and we'll send out announcements when we do it and things like that. But you know, whenever we have major changes to those lists, I want to get it out to you guys. So quarterly would be our bottom baseline, and then hope to work more frequent up from there.
So save that as a favorite in your browser and check back often.
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, now on to part 5.
Part 5. So AE proposal standard templates, and I think this is it is what it says it is. We just want to standardize what the templates look like for your proposals, and we think that'll facilitate awarding, being more efficient in awarding task orders. I appreciate the feedback I've received from you all in industry, and saying that this is something that you would benefit from too. We know you can still build your proposals on the back end. However, we know you have calculations and things you need to do. This is just the front page of how it rolls up and what it looks like. And it creates a lot of efficiency for our team, and to be able to do direct comparisons to our IGEs and really have a clear picture. So what we'll do is we're going to start, we're developing this proposal template. We're going to send it out in Excel format with our task orders, RFPs, and it'll be pre-populated with the tasks that are expected. Of course, you can add to that list of tasks. You can, whatever needs to be done. It's flexible. It's just a template. But that's what we'd like to see back is proposals in that template. And this is going to be, it's going to be flexible and editable. We appreciate your feedback on this stuff, right? If there's something that we can do better as we start to roll this out, please give feedback. I mean, we'll obviously take it. Go ahead.
Maybe you just repeat this, but are you considering putting out a draft of that to everybody letting us comment before you comment?
So the question was, are you planning to put out a draft of this template so we can comment on it? Nathan?
Yes, we'll get a draft out. We'll get a draft out for comments, and we're still refining it, and that is the plan. We're refining it. We'll get a draft out. We'll look at the draft, and then we'll start rolling it into task orders, and still continue to get feedback as it's in task orders. So
yeah,
yes.
My question was when.
Right now, like so,
Now.
we've got the template developed from our end, so I think we're ready to share it and start getting feedback.
If you want to use SAME as a vehicle to do that, we'd be happy to facilitate.
Be happy to do that.
Too.
Yeah.
And I would just add that, this is not something that's a USACE policy or procedure. So this is your district trying to improve on our processes and procedures, make more efficiencies. I think we've used the word several times today, be able to enhance our communication so that we're not spending a lot of time in negotiations, just trying to figure out, well, where did you have this or where did you include this? And I had it differently than you had it. And we're not actually able to actually talk about the actual work itself and the effort because we're so busy trying to figure out where things were in yours versus mine. So that's what it's meant to do, is just, again, upfront scoping to try and be able to be more on the same page so that when we do meet with you guys, we can meet for the really, truly important stuff.
And Cheryl, I applaud the district for doing that. I think, it's always the same. We build out our WBS the way we think that we're going to execute it. You've built out your IGE, your independent government estimate, the way you think it would be. And then that discussion all happens, once the proposal goes over the fence. I think seeing the way you're looking at it will help the AEs. Well, that's fine. We can just roll it up under this, or, put some subtasks in here so that we have everything covered. And I think that will help streamline negotiation. So I applaud this effort.
I was just going to say the same thing, but maybe add the comment that during the pre-proposal conference, if you sent this out, I know the goal that the districts has talked about wanting to have that as a standard pre-proposal meeting.
Yeah.
Before we propose, reviewing that WBS, because that's always the first step we do, making sure that we align up and we're not seeing something completely different. That would be great to cover in that meeting and have a back and forth if it needs to be adjusted.
Chandler, that's an excellent comment. Occasionally we have enough time, and it's not all the third week of September, but occasionally we have enough time. We can actually get the draft scope of work. We can be building that and then have this conversation before we start putting pen to pencil or pen to paper on the cost proposal. Is there another comment, question? Well,
All right.
moving on to part 6.
Last but not least, and this is a difficult topic, right? But I kind of thought it would be unfair to provide all these AE updates and not address our AE CPARS. And so, you know, I think Europe District NAU hasn't performed as highly on CPARS as we could have in the past. I've heard your concerns. I'm aware of the challenges, and I want you to be aware that we're working on a cure, right? We're staffing a plan, and there's kind of 2 aspects to the plan, right? Of course, we have to prevent projects from moving into the overdue status. And so the way we're working on that is better definition and documentation of our CORs and AOR roles, creating more clear memos and direct roles and direct transition plans for how we transition those roles and ensure things get covered as people come and go, and just improving our monthly reporting overall on the status of our AE contracts. So that's kind of the piece, and then there's also the piece of evaluating the existing overdue AE CPARS, and that's the more challenging side for me. We're doing a big effort to dig into the info we have, and we're reaching out to the folks we have. We've pushed it all the way up to the highest levels in our district, I can promise you, to pull the information from where it needs to come from. So we're working that, and we'll reach out to the AEs as soon as we can to get those CPARs evaluated, get them closed out, give you a proper, fair evaluation, which is of course our goal. Of course, there will be some projects where we're lacking knowledge. We haven't had a good transition of personnel, and those are going to be the really tough ones. But you know, as I look at our overdue list, there's really you know, I saw only 12 projects that are no longer active, and the CPARS is more than a year old, a year past due. So there's a very small list of projects that I feel like will be in that category, where we'll have to come up with a plan to come up with a fair way to rate neutral, and that will be communicated to you. There'll be letters. We'll explain clearly why we're doing what we're doing. We'll have discussion about it, and there'll be no secrets as we execute this plan. As always, Hector Cruz is our assessing official. He's our POC for the district on our CPARS. He did a SAME presentation a few months ago. So you've seen him, you know him. So please reach out to Hector as there's questions, concerns, things come up. He's our guy.
I would just have a comment to that, and just a shout out to Hector. I think he's doing a great job. I think you may have heard complaints, but Europe District, compared to a lot of other places we work, I also think is doing a great job. Of course, there's always room for improvement, and we'll look forward to working with Hector on that.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Anybody else want to make comment on CPARS? Margaret.
Okay, actually, I got 2 comments. Going back to the Torrens real quickly. This isn't out yet, but when we see the National Defense Authorization Act released, you may have heard that there'll be probably a change to the Torn process, that there may be language saying that the USACE or any government agency cannot use it as a matter of course. You can still have Torns when you need additional information, but not as a matter of course. So you guys tracking that possibility? Do you have a comment on how that will impact your work going forward?
I don't have a comment because acquisition is one of those things that is driven from enterprise headquarters down. And so we stand by and we will comply with whatever guidance comes out to us afterwards.
Okay.
So I apologize. I don't have.
I just thought it would be useful to those in the audience that might not know that. And then secondly, on CPARS, as of the 1st of August, through the Small Business Administration, there is direction that sub-consultants can seek ratings from their prime if there is a small business subcontracting plan in place. You guys tracking that too?
Tracking execution, I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, that is in effect today. We have not been asked for one yet, but we do have a plan when somebody does come forward on how we're going to react. And then, of course, I think your role would be that we are rateable based on how we comply with that requirement as a prime.
Right.
that would roll into the.
Seeing that the small business requirements are waived overseas.
Yeah.
It's,
No, but yes.
Yeah.
But,
yeah,
so you're not, okay.
so,
Okay.
all right. We're getting close to the end of the time, so, there are a number of backup slides available in the slide deck, which included, you know, a lot of references and examples and good information. But at this point, I would like to thank our presenters. And I'd like to, if you could stand up, if you don't mind. And if we could get some pictures, somebody. So Nathan, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations on joining the Rhein-Main Post and for pinging us to put this presentation together.
Absolutely,
Thank you
yeah.
very much.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
And Will, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it. And Cheryl, we'll look to welcome you as a new member next
Thank
month.
you very
So
much.
thank you very
Appreciate
much. And Patty, as always, it's a pleasure
No, thank you very much.
to work with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One thing, let's see, not, there's all the backup slides. What have you got in there next? If you have more questions about any of these topics, about the ECIFP, about the base contracts, about the TORNs, about CPARS, about CSRA, we'll try to get you answers. So maybe you didn't think of them in time, but if you've got more, can you go to the slide with our email address? You can send your questions or comments. I mean, if you want to provide some additional feedback to the team here, just send an email to rhine.mine@same@gmail.com and we will get you some answers.
It's in the chat. Yeah.
It's in the chat. Okay, very good. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And we will see you soon, hopefully at the December social, but for sure next year. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Reese.
Yeah.